I saw you guys, I was like, I was gonna stop and talk to you, but I was like, if I stop, there's no way I'm starting up again. It's way too hot.
I was impressed that you were running out there. I was like, that's terrible that you're running.
Trying to get into it again.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to East Dundee's regular board meeting dated May 16th, 2022 at 6 o'clock. Catherine, will you take the roll?
Trustee Mahoney? Here. Trustee Coonsey?
Present.
Trustee Britton? Here. Trustee Saviano? Here. Trustee Triber?
Here.
Trustee Sauter?
Here.
And President Lineham.
Here. And if you'll rise with me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, this takes us to our public comment on agenda items only. Does anybody in the audience like to address the board on an agenda item? Sir.
Yeah, my name is Jim Singh, and I'm one of the owners of Aliano's Restaurant in East Dundee.
Jim?
Yeah.
How you doing? Good to see you again.
Hi, Catherine. So thanks for being here today. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to talk to you a little bit and ask for a special request to continue to keep our outdoor tent, primarily the awning, above the patio for the remainder of the year, as we have been impacted, by COVID and by a lot of the things that have been going on within the industry. It rains about 56 days a year between May and September, with May being the most amount of rain. It's about 13 days in May. So if you look at 56 days of rain and the fact that we can't use the front half of the outdoor patio, it impacts the business about $2,500 a day and over $140,000 a year. So we're asking for a special request to continue to keep the roof structure of the tent through the rest of the year. Is there any questions regarding the tent request?
Well, can we ask questions now, or should we wait till the actual item comes
We'll wait
up?
till the motion
Yeah,
comes up.
stick around.
Okay, yes, sir. I appreciate it. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, anybody else? No? Seeing none, we'll move on. Our consent agenda. If I could have a motion for these two items.
I will move to approve the regular village board meeting minutes dated April 4th, 2022, and I'll move to approve a resolution for maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code to expend $249,000 in motor fuel tax funds in the fiscal year of 2023.
Second.
Second. Okay, is there any questions before we take the vote? I've got one. Joe, we're talking about, it seemed as though it was a wash between the motor fuel funds that will normally go for road repair and, oh man, I just lost it. It was an even wash of the money that was coming out of one and being spent from the other. What was the other fund?
Oh, the swap with the 4th Street improvements?
Yes.
Right, so it was our recommendation to use the motor fuel tax funds for Bonnie Dundee instead of 4th Street, because 4th Street's considered reconstruct, which would take longer to get through IDOT to get approval for that.
Okay.
The wash is 4th Street. I think there was $140,000 in the budget of MFT, and when Phil took a look at the budget for MFT and what's in the MFT account, all of Bonnie Dundee could be covered by MFT funds. So he decided to expend that in this resolution. Now, if you wanted to go dollar for dollar, 140, you can still do that, but then you would have to use local funds, which you're taking out of the 4th Street. So it's a wash. It's just that we're getting more money out in the MFT account.
And then Bonnie Dundee is just a resurface, just a grind.
Correct.
Isn't there a culvert that needs to be rebuilt on that too? There's the culvert that's at the bottom of where Ravine and Bonnie Dundee come together. And then there's that has just had bandages put on, like you could see down to the river from the street.
That's on Phil's radar, but that's not coming out of MFT.
Oh, okay. So
Possibly in-house.
would that be done at this, that should be done at the same time or before? Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
So we're not gonna be doing any construction and then have to tear up for that culvert, correct?
Ideally, no.
Okay. I'm gonna hold you to it. Okay, I just wanted to get an understanding about that, so, if there are no other questions, we'll go ahead and vote. Catherine?
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Triber?
Yes.
And Trustee Sauer.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, that'll take us to other agenda items. We'll start with item A, if I could have a motion, or actually,
It's just a discussion item.
Discussion.
Yeah. So, Erica, being as it is a discussion item, what are we discussing exactly? Whether or not we're open to this idea? Do we need to make, would this have to be like a special use permit?
Well, we could read it into the minutes here. So discussion and direction on temporary structure that Jim has mentioned earlier for Aliano's Restaurant. So there
So
we
the
go.
question I'm asking is still what I'd like to know.
So we do need direction from the village board to actually approve this because, well, we can't permit something that's not permittable. It's not in compliance and therefore we need the village board to provide an
So we would
exception.
almost have to write a new ordinance, is what you're saying?
Or issue a special use permit.
No.
No.
You want to opine on
Is
this?
this in the right of way?
No, this is
No.
on private property, but it's a temporary structure that the request is to extend the use by more time. And right now it's been up for more than 180 days, right?
Yeah, you want me to?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Go ahead and give us an overview.
The International Building Code and the Fire Code allow for temporary structures such as tents to be permitted for up to 180 days per year. So in order for this to continue, we would need some sort of action to allow extend it another 180 days or 360 days or some sort of format that would continue to be, allow it to be temporary. If you do consider the extension of the tent, and I believe they took the walls off.
Correct.
So it's just a canopy of the tent for the summer period. Then the staff would recommend that the owner would come up with some sort of long-term permanent solution going forward. And if they're going to use a tent in the wintertime and take it down, that's a temporary use. We could see that continuing, but if they want to have it up 365 days a year, then that's a different situation. And if you did decide to allow them, the permanent use, then the building department and the fire district would have to look at the code to see what we would have to do to make it as close to a code of a permanent structure, which I don't know that it can be because it would never meet the wind requirements of at least 90 miles an hour wind resistance. But we could look at the codes and see if there's any way to make it so that it's reach the highest level of public safety. I'm not sure that can be done, but if the board wants to go down that avenue, we can investigate it.
Okay.
So it would really be then an extension of that.
That would be an extension.
You know, just like you have a certain period for building permits, if you don't meet the deadline, then you can ask to have it extended.
Hold on, because, well, I mean, what, so the extension is to the allowance to go against the building code, essentially.
Correct.
The
And
building
we can do that?
Well, no, you're not going against the building code. The temporary structure, if it is a temporary structure, was okay for 180 days.
Correct.
You'd be extending that period as a temporary
And
structure.
we could do that.
You can do
We
that.
have
What,
authority.
but you're not addressing this issue about if they
Right.
want to keep it up all year. They haven't made a determination, and that would involve a lot more analysis whether that could be
Yeah.
done.
So, I mean, how do you feel about coming up with a permanent solution? Again, you could keep your walls being temporary, but having something that overhead permanent.
Yeah, we would appreciate if we could at least get approval on the extension of the temporary structure for the year of 2022 as we look for a futuristic view of what we might be able to do on a more permanent basis. Now, as we start putting together plans with our architects, as we start putting together plans with an architect to put a more permanent structure up, obviously we would approach the board and address it and make sure that we review engineering details, etc.
Okay.
So short-term, a request would be for 2022, and then a longer-term request would be for something
So
else.
let me ask you this question though. What we really want is an extension until this time next year, because you're going to want to have it up next winter.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Correct.
So basically another year.
Yes.
Yeah, otherwise you'd
So
be
it's
coming
not-
back in the fall to put
Yeah.
up the winter structure.
Exactly.
Yeah, that
Yep.
makes no sense. So, Chris, can I ask, is the rules governing the structure, the 180 days, is that just arbitrary?
No.
I mean, I realize, but IDC just goes ahead and pulls out a number, and they chose 180.
Right.
What's the magic behind it?
That
I guess
it
that's
is,
what I don't
that
get.
it's a short enough period to be considered temporary.
Okay.
And it's
it's
long
just-
enough to make it worthwhile for
Yeah.
somebody to invest in.
Okay.
It sounds like this structure, though, so is it arbitrary? No. Is it a number that was pulled out from somewhere? Yes, but based on that, if it's too long, it's not really temporary, and if it's too short, it's not useful.
Yeah.
That's the
And then-
balance.
Wind resistance of 90 miles an hour, man, that's Category 1 hurricane. I don't know that we've
Well,
ever had that
it's
kind of
just what they
situation in
design,
Illinois.
permanent structures for, buildings are designed for that
Okay.
minimum of
So,
90.
and-
A lot of them are over 100 when they design.
Okay.
And that's a whole separate analysis, so
Yeah,
you
right.
can actually make waivers to building code requirements, but you have to see what they are, and that would have to be looked at based on the plans and what's being proposed. My guess is this started its life under the emergency protocol, right,
Yeah.
under
Correct.
COVID, and now you're trying to fit it in. When it went up, it originally wasn't the traditional temporary, it was
Right.
done under the emergency to try to save businesses, and now we're trying to catch up.
Well, and to that extent though, too, on the back portion of the patio, you do have a permanent roof.
A pergola, right, that
A
was approved
permanent
by the board a
pergola,
few
right.
years ago, correct?
Right, so, I think that, and then this is just augments it and sits in front of it.
Exactly.
Extending it out further.
Correct.
And so, would it be in your vision to extend out the pergola further?
Either the pergola or some type of awning type of, subsystem. We're just not sure yet. We're looking at different options for either building an extension to the pergola or something more permanent. It's not something that we can even really talk about now. We're just
Right.
looking at costs and options for that.
So, on the permanent pergola that you have up right now, in the wintertime, you're hanging curtains from that anyway, and does that fall under temporary, or is it only the roof line?
Chris, what would you think of that?
I mean, it would be a temporary enclosure, so, because then they are providing temporary heat and so
Mhm.
forth to use the space in the
Okay.
wintertime.
But that's within the building code, as long as
Right,
it's
yeah.
180
within
days.
180
Right,
days,
yeah.
right. And the code does allow extensions to that 180 days.
Oh, okay.
So the plan is one more year,
Yes.
right? And then permanent, or it stays temporary and it
Correct.
falls? Okay, and it
Yes.
goes back to really just being roof gone?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
All we can see is a year
Okay.
forward of the business.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from a policy standpoint,
Yeah.
you do still have virus concerns going
Absolutely.
around, and so
Mhm.
it's not, you're not creating a bad precedent, I don't
Right.
think.
Well, I mean, I would go further and just say that I think it's an asset to the downtown.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
personally,
I don't want
issue
it to be
with-
another thing that every year we have to
Yeah.
do an
Yeah.
extension on, it's,
Yeah,
that's
understand.
my only concern is I don't want it to be an annual extension.
I
so.
understand.
I'm just trying to figure out a way, and I'm sure you've thought about it, and so that you can get what you need in the summer, and then we can permit what needs to be permitted with walls in the future, with whatever plans that you come up with as something that's would be more permanent.
Okay.
So would they have to dig footings, Chris?
Pardon me?
Would they have to dig footings to make those poles permanent, or
They-
could
they-
they
they
tie
would
it
have
into
to-
the
they would have
structures?
They would have to have, piers for each. It
Yeah,
have to be architecturally designed, the whole weight of each column and each beam that they're supporting.
right. And we've started to lay out some of that permanent infrastructure in the
Previously,
patio as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's footings.
Oh,
Right now, currently, there's seriously.
We've put some footings in the ground as a future
Yeah,
support
Right
system
now.
for a permanent structure, as part of the patio build out a few years ago.
But currently, there is good footage.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Great. You're already there.
Well, judging from good faith of the work you've already done on there, I feel very comfortable giving the extension through next year, through next
Yeah.
May, while you get together architecture stuff.
I
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we have consensus, at least to provide some sort of direction for staff to put together an agreement for you, and then we'll
Okay.
contact you on that.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
Thank you trustees, I really appreciate
Thank
your
you.
consideration.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions for me? No?
One quick question. If,
Sure.
with the extension of this, would there be like a period where Chris and his crew would look at ways to solidify or hold things down, like as best we can? Give it. I'm assuming that it's all pretty secure for the structure that's there, but if there's like minor improvements we can do for the year for any big storms, that seems like a good idea, just to make it as secured as we can for a temporary structure.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, everything's anchored into the ground through the patio, through long stakes, but I know Chris comes by probably at least every 30 or 45 days and, you know, so yeah, he's got permission to come on by anytime to further recommend any improvements for the safety of the community.
Is it also anchored to the side buildings, or is it?
No, no, it's not
Just right
anchored to the
down.
walls.
It's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
There's 10-inch stakes going into the ground though, so.
Yeah,
Maybe
the
the
stakes
concrete, so
are
I don't
pretty,
know.
yeah.
What more than 10 inches long, but it's pretty secure.
It's
It's
yeah,
not going
it's really stable.
This isn't a typical tent.
No, this
Pretty
is
solid. This is
high-end.
Right.
Yeah, I said it couldn't be a graduation tent, like it's something you'd go see your,
Right,
right
your
now.
niece, you know, in the backyard. This is a high-end,
Yeah.
and we pay a lot of money to be able to rent this tent as well, and make sure it's safe and secure.
All right, then we'll put something together and get to you. Jim.
Okay, thank you so much, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so you know, you're under no obligation to stay for the entire meeting. You won't feel bad if you.
Let everybody leave.
I was just going to say, for clarification of the record, I would just recommend that somebody make a motion to extend the temporary structure through May 16th, 2023, and then just take a...
So are you thinking, Erica, that we wouldn't need to bring it back, we would just do it by motion?
Correct.
We can do that, that's fine.
All right. I will certainly make a motion to extend our, what am I extending?
Temporary structure.
The temporary structure that
Okay.
exists
So-
at this property at 310 North River.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion, to extend the allowance for the temporary structure at Aliano's Restaurant, 310 North River Street, East Dundee, Illinois, 60118,
Through May.
Second.
through May 16th, 2023.
Second,
Catherine?
Trustee Mahoney?
yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Triber?
Yes.
And Trustee Sauter?
Yes.
Wonderful, Jim. You're set for a year.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. All right, great. That takes us to item B, if I could have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance amending Chapter 116 of the Village of East Dundee Village Code to add a new Class B-5 liquor license to allow for the sale of both packaged beer and wine. Is that a typo in there? And beer and wine for on-premises consumption.
Should actually say packaged liquor and beer and wine
Beer
for
and wine.
on-premises consumption.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so discussion on this one.
Well,
We have,
I have a question. I understand the idea. My question is, this still says on-premise consumption. And is there no way of writing the liquor license to not allow on-premise consumption, but still allow the gaming machines, or no?
So
that's the problem.
I'll just give a brief overview of the issue. So
Yeah.
currently, you are required to have a liquor license for on-premise consumption if you want to get a license for gaming. And the only exception to that is if you are a truck stop, or there's a few other exceptions. There's a couple of gas stations in town who do not meet the qualifications of a truck, or of guidelines for a truck stop, because they're not large enough, they don't accommodate trucks, but they would like to have gaming. And so one of them is here this evening, along with some representatives from a gaming company who have worked with other communities to create this on-premise consumption liquor license. And that would allow for a gas station that doesn't meet the qualifications of being a truck stop to also have gaming. So the question is, leading up to the subsequent issue of, does the village board think that it's a good thing to have gaming at all gas stations so that it's equitable, or does it make more sense to have different rules for different gas stations?
My understanding is that the state of Illinois has dictated whether or not gaming can be done at a gas station that is not qualified as a truck stop. That's not the case?
No.
Please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Maggie Westlow, and I work for Excel Entertainment. And we have partnered with Jay to hopefully provide video gaming at the location. So exactly like what Erica just stated, it's not mandated that there's only two ways in Illinois to get gaming. It's with an on-premise liquor license, or you are a truck stop. And their state does allow for convenience stores to have an on-premise liquor license as long as the local municipality allows it.
Okay.
So, and the reason for the combination clearly is because they sell packaged liquor. So we have worked with many municipalities throughout Illinois, most recently Harwood Heights, Oswego, New Lenox, Alsip, and working with their city council board to create or stack, where you can, like this one is creating a new liquor license, where it would allow for a convenience store or liquor store or grocery store, anyone that doesn't have a restaurant, to be able to have that type of liquor license to add gaming to their establishment.
Okay. So, Jay, your position has always been one that you want gaming at your gas station. What I'm seeing here is a way around it.
Yes.
By providing a liquor license that will allow on-site consumption, that will let you have gaming. If you're saying that you don't need the on-site.
No, he doesn't.
No, they do.
It's
She's saying they do.
He's not going around it by any means.
No.
He's
What
following-
I'm
yeah,
wondering
he's
is-
following the ordinance.
Right, but
He's
if-
hoping that the village would create a new liquor license.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. What I'm saying though is, if you're a truck stop, you're okay. You can
Right.
have it. If you're not, and you're a gas station, you can have it as long as you have on-site, on your consumption on-site.
Exactly.
So, okay, so the only way to have, I mean, the municipality does not have any sort of autonomy here as far as we can go ahead and allow a gas station gaming without the liquor?
Not at all.
Okay.
Because it's regulated by the Illinois Gaming Board. So those are the only two,
Right.
on-premise or truck stop.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would allowing the on-premise consumption look like in your establishment?
What is your question?
Like, what would allowing
Yeah, go ahead.
on-site consumption
She's
look
gonna
like?
answer.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's okay.
thank you.
So basically, it would only be beer and wine, clearly. And they would either have a little refrigerator behind the counter, or they would sell it from the refrigeration that they currently have, pay for it. It can only be consumed in the gaming area. You can't walk around with it. And historically, people don't go to convenience stores to get intoxicated. Okay, we have found that the gaming works well in convenience stores because retirees like to get up early, they like to go get a cup of coffee, they like to get a donut, they like to play. They don't want their car parked out in front of a bar 8 o'clock in the morning, nor do they maybe want it in front of a gaming cafe, what have you. They like the privacy and the quietness of going to a convenience store. It'll be, it'll be enclosed in, it won't be roped off. We can put up some dividers, a wall fixture type of thing that make it in a little room. So it will only be accessible to, there'll be a sign on, 21 and older only. And it's in the immediate, because obviously if you've been in his store, he has a whole rack of items that are,
They hardly sell.
Yeah.
They're paper towels and toilet tissues and your groceries. They are getting expired. And that room approximately 160 square feet in order to put at least 4 or 5 game machines. And it's across from our counter so we can see all at the same time.
yeah.
And we are going to put one sign that under 21 is not allowed to get inside.
And that's required by Illinois Gaming Board. Some of the things that other municipalities, when we met with Erica and Catherine that we mentioned, some of the things that other municipalities do is that they limit the number of beer or wines that are consumed by someone during the duration of their stay. Some will say you can only have 2. It's interesting, some have served Busch Light at $10 a can, type of thing, something that they make it a different price where people don't buy it. People, and typically we just had a location in New Lenox, a liquor store, that they legitimately had gaming at least for 6 weeks before they even sold something to consume on premise in there. People will drink when they're at the bar or the gaming cafe, but not typically a convenience store. But they like it, the convenience of going to a convenience store for gaming.
What are we opening ourselves up for as far as other? So this is specifically for the liquor license, like for creating this liquor license.
Right.
This has nothing to do with this specific location. This is, well, I mean it does, but this is a creation of a new liquor license to allow specifically gas stations to sell for on-premise consumption, or what? I'd like to have more understanding about what we're opening ourselves up to here.
So the license itself is creating the liquor class so that it would be available for entities to apply for.
Yeah, you're not creating a license.
We're creating
You're creating a class.
Okay.
And the way your code is set up, every single time a license isn't used, it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And you create a new one for each location and each new user, which is a legislative act, which is completely within your discretion. So you do not need, it's not a precedent for giving a license to any
Right.
gas station. It's not. Your liquor license in the code is set up specifically to avoid that. All you're doing here is creating the class.
But
And
we
this-
would have to pick and choose establishments that we want
Yeah.
to allow and we don't, for
Well, we could do that
arbitrary
now.
reasons.
Right.
So if the class were created, any entity could apply for it, and then any entity that applied for it would come before the board, and the board could
Just like
exercise their discretion and determine whether or not they wanted to allow that liquor license to be provided to whatever entity applied for it. So, there's a lot of,
I mean, you're gonna have games, if you ever hit a grocery store, it'll be in the grocery store.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
The other gas station.
Sometimes most of the grocery stores are hit or miss. Grocery stores typically, they can if you allow it clearly, but because they typically don't, because they don't want to give up the space, basically. If they have the space, if they have like for example, like a Pete's Fresh Market, they have like a little dining area and stuff like that. So they've been adding it because they have like a dining area and it kind of makes sense. But grocery stores that they don't want to give up the space because they might not necessarily have room to take away, several aisles of whatever to accommodate that. But like Erica said, you can pick and choose based on that because, again, not every convenience store might have available square footage. Because you know the ones that are the little boxes, you know, the small little ones that you go in and there's a counter and they just have a handful of things, they're not anywhere near big enough to have any gaming in there.
I don't understand the connection between the gaming and the liquor. I don't understand why the state would require.
21.
Well, even still.
We've been questioning that for years.
But
It's
the liquor,
weird.
the
Yeah.
liquor it makes no connection to gaming.
It doesn't.
I mean, if you're gonna allow gaming, fine, why require that the establishment also serve liquor in
Because
order
of the
to have it?
casinos.
Why?
Because the casinos, so in Illinois, you have to be 21 to go into a casino.
Yeah.
So what they did is that you don't have to be 21 to go in a restaurant, you don't have to be 21 to go into a liquor store, you don't have to be 21 to go in a convenience store. But to go in that area, you need to be 21, so they mirrored it with a liquor license.
Well, requiring one to get the other is
They
kind of.
wanted to make more money.
I get it.
I mean, we're not going to solve that problem
Yeah,
tonight.
you're not gonna solve that.
Yeah, we've been questioning that for a long time.
Gee, you have to understand that if you're gonna get
Well,
a.
not only that, but since COVID started, we have been struggling. First of all, it's very difficult to find good employee. And the good employee, I used to hire 2-3 years ago, $13, $14 an hour. Now nobody wants to work for that money. So the two people are standing there doing nothing. In order to survive, pay overheads, I have to have multiple revenue in order to survive. I've been in this town since 1999. Very successful businessman because of you. You, village of East Dundee, helped me so much. I did not move since 1999 because every time I had cousin subs and Subway, you guys gave me permission to run the business, but somehow it didn't work out. And I closed this section because Subway we were losing money, you know. But right now, it's very difficult to find good employee. And good employee, they just ask good money, and I have to. There is no other choice.
No, I understand that. You're gonna find a challenge, I would think. If you're gonna get a liquor license, you know, there's a whole new set of rules that surround that opportunity.
The legal license that I have, since I don't remember the year, but we always obey.
I understand that.
Even last couple of weeks ago, there was a surprise checking, and we were passed. You know, I mean, we check everybody's ID, and this gaming machine counter is right in front of us, so we can see who's going inside.
Right. But
It's just basically generate extra revenue in order to survive. That's all.
no, I know. It's just for me, it's a little odd. I can understand the state's actually apprehension, if you will, about allowing it for gas stations, simply because if I want to stop in at a gas station, I can go in here and drink, right, Lance? I mean, that's what this license would allow you to do. I mean, you don't necessarily have to take part in the gaming in order to be able to drink at a gas station. And this is what it's going to allow people to do.
Yeah.
This is a little odd because
You
then
can
I'm
do
going to
that
get.
at a bar, though, too.
I understand that. I get it.
But again,
I get it.
in the-
But we have 6 other gas stations here. Actually, one is met the qualifications for the for a truck stop.
Two.
Right, right.
But or 2 might have, yeah, Speedway.
But you know, I'm sorry. Once in a while, when I go to the Shell gas station by Rock Road and 70,
Right.
I noticed that a lot of people are just playing the games. I haven't seen any bottled beers there. I just try to observe
They
the place.
don't serve alcohol there, I don't believe, for consumption, because they're a
It's
truck
a
stop.
truck stop.
They're truck
Yes,
stops, so they,
truck stop.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there is a couple of places in Carpentersville, right here by 731 and Huntley.
Okay.
You know, they serve, but you know, I stop by, I try to learn, educate myself what they are doing. But I hardly see people are drinking because they are selling $6, $7, $8 a bottle. Nobody's going to buy them.
No, I realize. And if that were the case here, I mean, that's one thing, that's one way to discourage people from drinking and gambling at a gas station is to charge them a fortune for the beer. My point is, though, it can happen, and it's a little odd.
Well,
And it's going to put a lot of, you know, if you're talking about difficulty attracting and retaining the kind of employment or employees that are running the business, you're going to run into a different set of challenges if you're gonna add liquor to that. Because there's a lot of different rules and regs that go along with the employment
Exit training.
of people who are gonna be licensed, who are gonna be trained, that kind of thing. So, you just gotta be aware of that.
We have been taking challenges all my life.
No, I know.
You know,
I
I
get it.
started $20 bill in the state of Illinois in 1985.
Yeah, okay.
You know, so
There-
we had,
Yeah, you see more people, if they're going in and filling up gas and going in, they're not gonna go in there to drink. They're just not gonna do that. And we found that in the convenience stores. They will go in there and they can limit it to, you have to be playing in order to have one. Or there's different things that you can do, and we talked about all the different options that are available. But the reality is, the average gaming person is a female 45 and older. And they like to have a relaxed environment, and they don't necessarily drink, they just like to play. So they don't go there. If they're gonna go drink, they go to a bar, and then that's when they're going there, they're drinking, and, $20, I'll throw it in the slot machine. People that go to the cafes and go to the convenience stores, they wanna play. They don't wanna go there to drink. So they go there. Like, I think I sent the Harwood Heights one. I think I sent their for Harwood Heights, and what Harwood Heights did is that obviously your gaming mirrors your liquor license. So you're on premise. So if, let's say, for example, your on premise is from, your hours, local hours are 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. Okay, just for example, 7 days a week. What Harwood Heights did is they shut down, I believe it's 10 o'clock, that they allow the gaming in the convenience stores to stop at 10 o'clock. So, just a little, that's something that they did differently. And the reason that they did that is because, if you know where Harwood Heights is, it's a little pocket that right across the street is Chicago, and Chicago doesn't have gaming. They don't allow route gaming, and they're right by the Kennedy Expressway. So the main reason they did that is they didn't want people from the city coming in and being like, oh, there's that one right off the expressway, we can go play there, and they're half in the bag coming from the city already, making a stop in Harwood Heights to play. That's the main reason they did it.
Okay. I understand that we could make any agreement with Jay, verbal agreement, and say, whatever about when he's gonna serve alcohol and all that. What I wanna know is, when we issue an actual liquor license, can we put contingencies on it for each establishment?
Or no, or if not even,
Well,
my
I just
question.
wanna know if we can.
Well, and
No.
No.
You need to create the limitations in the category you
Yeah.
create.
You can't do it by license.
Okay.
No, the only way that happens is where someone maybe has a problem at an establishment, and you put them on like a probation, and you put extra restrictions on them. But the whole point of the classification is to create the rules for that class.
Right.
And this is its own class that would apply to gas stations or those kinds of stores that sell packaged liquor. They don't have an on-premise
Okay. So then
assumption, which is,
Other
but they have
question
the
then,
space to be able to.
would we be able to set the hours in the liquor license that they're allowed to serve alcohol for consumption on site?
Yes. And
As
long as it's in the class.
As long as it's part of the
Does it
class.
have to be tied to the hours that gaming is allowed? Is the law state that while there's gaming allowed, there has to be alcohol served all the time?
I don't think it
Yes.
says expressly that, but inferentially, it's
Yes,
the
so
same
basically,
result.
Because what the state did not want people to do is to get an on-premise liquor license just to get the gaming and then not serve it, because they do have agents from the Illinois Gaming Board that do go out to establishments. Like, we have them in laundromats, we have them in car washes, we have, convenience stores, where they go out there, the agents will go out there and be undercover, sit down and ask for a beer or, a wine, to make sure that that establishment is following the rules of being able to serve a beer or a wine.
Okay, so my question then, around that point, is could we, based on the class that we put together, or any municipality, restrict or control the price of the alcohol being served for this particular class to be 5 times the normal amount?
Because that's up to the individual establishment owner.
Yeah,
He
we
sets their
can't,
prices.
we can't regulate the pricing,
Right,
but
so you can't
I just-
regulate the pricing, yeah.
let's go
They
back to
can.
Scott's question for a
Okay.
second to Lance.
Yeah.
What he's getting at is, can the village board have of the regulation of the hours for on-site consumption, say, for example, not be before noon? So consumption is noon to 8. Can they still have gaming at 8 in the morning, or the hours of the on-premise consumption have to mirror the hours that gaming is allowed?
They need to mirror.
Gotcha. And so then further, can they have separate hours for on-premise consumption and separate hours for purchase for off-premise consumption? So the package
Oh, sure.
sales.
Yes.
So we could have one set of hours for
Yeah.
package sales, one set of hours for on-premise consumption.
Right.
Okay. and
Because
then I
they're
wanted
really going to have a
okay,
dual
thank you.
license.
Got
Well,
it.
Yeah, I was
then
gonna
we're
say,
So
there's
the
already-
next question is, if this is something that the village board wants to proceed with, something that was brought up is something that I wasn't aware of, that I want to make a recommendation on, is if this is going to proceed, I would recommend that the board amend this ordinance to not allow the purchase of packaged goods from the container to then be consumed in the gaming area. I would say, if you're
Yes,
going to do
keep it
this,
separate.
there's something behind the counter that is only going to be sold from the person who's working there for consumption in the gaming area.
So like, in other words, Harwood Heights gets around it by charging $10 a beer, but I can't go buy the 6-pack from the counter 20 feet away and then take it over to
No,
the
not
gaming
at all.
area
No, you cannot.
to avoid the
packaged
$10
liquor
charge.
cannot be consumed inside the
Right.
thing. And I think, but I could be wrong, so Harwood Heights did not create a new class. They stacked because they created the hours different from the package. So with this class, you're allowing on-premise and off-premise, and if you put the hours in that class, that's when he'll be able to only sell the package as well. So you might want to stack them.
Well, that's why Erica suggested amending,
Right. But
yeah.
you also inferred earlier that there may be people that buy from the cabinet, and then when she asked how would it look, you said they could get from the cabinet and
Take
then.
it to the gaming area.
Well, no, so basically, there's 2 different options. The convenience stores that don't have room behind the counter for a little refrigerator cooler, what they do is you know how you have they sell individual cans or individual, like those little wine
Right,
things?
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
My
so the
recommendation would
employee,
be, don't allow individual containers to be sold for purchase in the gaming area. If you want to allow it, that's fine, but my recommendation would be whatever is behind the counter is what's sold for on-premise.
and they could do that very well, because then that would help out Jay immensely with overhead. Maybe have a Miller Lite and a regular beer and a Chardonnay and a rosé. You know, something like that, that's what's available for consumption in the gaming area. And then he would have it in a little refrigerator behind there. They would come up to the counter, purchase it, and the employee would either, hand it to him and they, watch him walk, because it's right there, or the employee could walk it into the gaming room for them.
Sure. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And I will be very strict. I want to be here for the rest of my life. So I'm not going to make any mistakes. Even though I'm giving you an example. Sometimes customer buy packaged liquor and they try to drink in our parking lot. Immediately we call the police. Immediately, because I don't want them to drink in my property. Because these are packaged liquor, you have to go home or go somewhere else, but not here. So I will be very strict and honest.
And I believe you, Jay, but when we say yes to this, we have other people that are going to ask for the same thing that might not make these promises.
Right.
For instance, we have a Dundee food and liquor convenience store on 25. They're going to want one. We have another gas station right down the street from you. They're going to want one. They're going to come up.
Yeah, as long as I know, there is only one gas station we don't have, which is mobile gas station, Super K, right?
Yeah,
68,
68 and,
No,
25.
25.
Just north of us.
68 and 72, that,
No.
they don't have gaming there.
No, south of Toronto,
Yeah.
Circle
Well,
K.
that had the chicken place.
there is one more.
The one by the
talking
fire
about-
department across the street from there.
Mhm.
Yeah, right across the street from fire department,
You're talking about the Aiden Market one.
village
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah.
No, but he's talking about the one on 25, just north of the.
Well,
cemetery.
I'm saying Aiden Market's gonna want it too.
Oh, sure.
And that may be
Yeah.
true, but.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
then,
What
but then
we're-
again,
Let me finish
Yeah,
first. What we're discussing tonight is whether or not you all think that we should create this liquor class.
I don't.
We're not discussing the merits of his business or anybody else's business, because if people were to apply, then you would have your discretion to grant these licenses or not grant them to whoever you want, based on whether or not you think an operator could be responsible. So,
Do we though, or are we opening ourselves up for a discrimination lawsuit if we say no to somebody arbitrarily? After
So-
we've said yes to that.
So the answer is typically no, because you, as I described earlier, the way you have the code set up and the way all codes basically are set up by responsible boards, is you've created each license to be a legislative act, which you have no duty to enact legislation. Whether you create a new license for someone is not like where you have rules. If you had an unlimited number of licenses in your town, and you have rules for what you have to do in order to get one, if someone came in and applied, you couldn't say no if they met all those obligations, because the license exists and you have an applicant. But the way your code is set up is there are a limited number of liquor licenses, and whenever a licensee stops operating, goes out of business, or is revoked, it goes away, and you have one less liquor license in town. So you have to create a new cap in order to allow another business. And unless you took action, I mean, I can't say never, but the action would have to be facially discriminatory in a very obvious way, other than your concern about someone's ability to operate at that location, because each liquor license is location specific unless you have a caterer's license, and it's tied to the layout, it's tied to where they would put the gaming. You have a really large amount of discretion on whether to create a new license, a large amount, very large.
I mean, it also comes into play, they can't be, as you know, they can't be within 100 feet of a church or a school, so maybe some of those are rechecked, and he's well over the 100 feet from building to building. And another thing is that, yes.
That's true.
It's close, but he's still passed, but,
Count where the pulpit is.
still over 100, gaming works at 100. But then again, another thing that may come into play is parking. So they have plenty of parking in their parking lot. Some of these other ones may not. Maybe their gas station only has 4 parking spots. So you may say, you know, it's not discriminatory to say, although you're a convenience store, unfortunately you don't meet the code for enough parking spots. I mean, you know, we've had that happen before, where it's a liquor store and they didn't have enough parking spot by the square footage of their building. And there's other liquor stores that were in town that had it, and
So the way our system is set up, it gives us much more discretion on an individual licensee basis. So we got more
Intentionally,
control,
yeah.
which
The,
I.
the
am
parking
glad for.
concern does seem like a concern for that location.
Yeah.
Because I try to get gas at your station. The only times I don't, and it's somewhat frequent, is there's too many cars in the way. And if you have, like, it's kind of hard to get to some of the spots if cars are gassing up at the time, or if people are gassing up and they take too long. Like if we give them an impulse buy while they're going in to pay, I'll throw a couple bucks in really quick and see if I win something on the machine, and then they go out and we've doubled the length of their stay in that spot, which you could tell them to go back out and move their car, but I think a lot of people are just going to be in there and spend a little more time than they would have before and create more of a gas sales issue that maybe is going to hurt this gas station more than the revenue on gaming.
we don't find that the most pay at the pump, okay? Then if they're an impulse to go in, they move away and park. We don't see at the convenience stores where they're sitting there at the pump and done pumping, and then they go in and sit down and start playing. But if that were the case, clearly they would say you have to go move your car.
Well,
But you have 12 spots, so there's
yeah,
plenty
and
of-
not only that, but we sell state of Illinois lottery, instant lottery, and the game machine, online machine. But they generally don't park. Whoever wants to play, they come inside and play. They park. They don't. And I can see in cameras that I have to request them. But I have not done it last many years.
I would say if there was generally
Yeah.
gonna be a huge parking issue, you would have had it when you had Cousin Subs
Yeah.
or Subway there, when people were, like, our family would go park and sit in and eat there.
Yeah.
So I think that this is.
And we have plenty
Less
of
efficient.
extra parking. When I come 7 o'clock in the morning, the street is totally empty. There's plenty of parking for me. I just have to walk a couple steps, that's all. So I can leave my space open.
One different question, you mentioned the demographic that you're after is the person who, the bars aren't open and it's the morning and they're retired and they want to go and gamble, but if we don't allow drinking until noon, they can't gamble until noon either, so they have to wait until the bars are open, and then we're just having another bar
I would highly
situation.
suggest that you don't. My feeling is that if you're gonna put it at noon, that's a detriment to him.
Yeah.
I mean, in reality, I think Eric was just using that hopefully just as a reference.
But if
But
we're,
if you-
we're kind of a bar town, and it
Mhm.
maybe is creating a problem if people can drink all day and through the morning, and then wait until the convenience store opens and keep drinking, and there's not like a rest period for the dozen bars that we have already.
2
Well,
a.m. to
I-
6 a.m.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where the Bassett training comes into place, big time, when if someone comes, I think, I can't speak for you, but I would think if someone is coming into the convenience store to buy a package liquor and they're coming off of a binge from that night and they're drunk, that Jay's clearly not gonna sell them package liquor.
Exactly. And
I
that
mean-
is my really good practice. If somebody walk in drunk, we don't sell them.
Yeah,
We
so
don't sell them.
he's not gonna let them come in
Yeah.
and sit down and start playing.
See, honest to God, I am here for community and our good society, not that we don't want to bring totally junk people inside, I immediately call the police. If they don't move, even the parking lot, if I see they are drunk and even they are driving and with the beer, I said, no, you can't do that.
And then the last concern that I wanted to bring up is that I think there's been discussions in the past that, like with the axe throwing getting more gambling licenses, that there was a feeling that there's per capita way more gambling licenses in our town than were desired, and there were people coming in talking about gambling awareness and the problems that it can cause. And so, like, giving one more doesn't seem bad, but if we open it up to gas stations, and all gas stations will want it, and if this new liquor class creates, when you get your hair cut, you can also gamble and drink, and I would like to drink while I'm getting my hair cut, or like it could expand to many more areas than just the many bars that already have it in our town.
But I think that goes back to what the attorney said as far as like the class of the liquor license. They have to come before you for each one that they want to get approved for, and like Erica said as well, you determine at that point in time, is this a location that we want to, give an on-premise liquor license? Like, for example, your reference to a beauty salon, she wouldn't qualify in this class because she's not gonna carry package. The beauty salon just wants an on-premise. So if she doesn't come to you now for an on-premise, chances are she's not going to. But to that point, at that point in time is when you decide, do we want to give a beauty salon a liquor license to have this? You could say, no, it doesn't meet within our guidelines or what we want to do.
I'm glad you brought that up, Andy, though, because I was talking with Sarah earlier too about we'd started this conversation when Spartan came forward about maybe we need a larger discussion about gaming in general in the community and whether or not we want to establish some guidelines so that when people do come forward, there's a set of expectations around what the community thinks is appropriate and acceptable. So we talked about having a general committee meeting.
General village meeting.
General village meeting about it. So I think we should do that and, just have that larger
Or
conversation.
committee of the whole, I think is
Separate,
probably
yeah,
more
committee,
appropriate
yeah,
with everybody
just
here,
with
because I
everybody.
think it seems like everyone here has an opinion
So we can do
and
that.
a point of view,
Well,
which,
We
and
can-
Jay, I'll tell you, that church that's apparently 101 inch away from you, brought 40 people to Village Hall, to the village board meeting when we were just talking about having a marijuana dispensary in our town. They might not like the idea of having a casino across the street from them, and you might have to deal with them too. Just saying.
Well, that was a long time ago when I applied for liquor license. That time, I believe Officer Bina was a liquor commissioner, I believe, that time. And I went to church, and the church, head of the church gave me the one letter. I might still have that letter saying that we don't have no objection for your business.
Yeah.
As long as you obey the rules and regulations,
Right.
you'll be okay.
I understand that, but they might not feel the same about, the gambling machines. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, the motion on the floor is to just create a new class of license. So, do we have, it's good discussion, but do we have any other questions concerning the actual establishment of a new class of liquor license? Because that's the motion.
I think this is I would recommend that we table this so that we can have a broader discussion about
Creating
this
a new
class. If we were to create this class, what the limitations would be, how that's going to then roll into the topic of gaming licenses, which has been a topic before that we're trying to get our arms around. I think I want to have some guidelines so that we don't come across with a petition as a board from a petitioner where we're using arbitrary approvals for liquor licenses and gaming licenses. The fact that the state has the limitations with truck stops, that put guardrails around us for us to be able to make good decisions based on fact and size of the property, whatever. I think this is just too big, and while I applaud your creativity and Jay, I appreciate the business that you bring to East Dundee, I'm not comfortable with just approving this and then creating a problem that we might have down the road without more fully understanding what the ramifications are of this.
Okay, no, I get that. I get it and I appreciate it. What I'm saying though is that this motion requests the creation of a new class. Once the class has been created, the issuance of the licenses based on that class is completely up to the village.
We understand.
But we still have-
I think that
one-off conversation that we have.
One thing to consider is that if we have to vote on it right now, it might be a no.
Right.
So in
It
order
would
to
be a
get
no.
closer to a yes, we might have to talk about it some more.
Mhm.
As disappointing that it might be is to wait a little longer. I think it might benefit you in the long run to wait for us to be able to feel comfortable about it.
Well, and even you were saying, Lance, that any kind of qualifications or limitations would have to be written into this, and it's not in it right now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so you could,
We
if you
can't
wanted
oppose-
to, we could try to add those now, but it sounds like if there's a desire to table this in order to have a broader discussion at a committee of the whole,
Mhm.
then that motion would take precedence over the motion to approve. So you'd actually vote on the tabling motion first, so you
Right.
wouldn't have to
That's what I'm
deny
saying.
the
That's exactly
tabling.
what
So
I'm
that way
saying.
you could avoid
Right.
voting no on them because you want to have a broader discussion. And for those
Correct.
that want to approve this tonight, they would vote no on tabling it, and then presumably it would pass. So that's how that would be,
Right.
would play out.
So is there a motion then to table?
Yeah, I will move to table this for further discussion in the committee of whole meeting, hopefully dated for next month.
Second.
Kathy?
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
No.
Trustee Triber?
No.
And Trustee Sauter?
Yes.
Jay, we're gonna take another look at this real quickly. We'll certainly have an answer by next month after we've had another, opportunity amongst ourselves to discuss it. In the meantime, you're certainly welcome to contact any of the board members for further discussion. There's gonna be a couple of changes that Erica had brought up that certainly are gonna go into the change if it certainly is, to be passed. And then we'll let you know.
I hope you help, that's all.
No, we understand, we understand.
Because, it's where January, February, March, and April, 4 months were bad months.
Yeah,
Looks like it's full store, because of the competition, profit margin is only 6%.
right.
And the overheads are very high, the insurance gone up, electric gone up, gas gone up, employees. It's very difficult, and you wouldn't believe that when I took over this place in 1999, and that previous owner was selling bait, live bait, and I haven't heard live bait, and I said, holy cow, what is this? Live fish that I have to sell it? So I closed that part. I said, no, I don't want to sell bait. But then village, everybody, all customers, they are very well known this store for the live bait, and you stop doing it. And I said, okay, now I have to go to Wisconsin and learn everything. So I went to Wisconsin, and because all the supplies comes from Wisconsin, so I went there and I learned and I started. Now I'm very popular. One day I was buying a car in long way, and then that guy said, you are from the bait shop, right? I said, okay. I am very popular because of bait shop, So, I want to be success in this town. I want to live all my life here. I'm not going anywhere. So,
And
I
Jay,
really
I saw
appreciate
you change from Cousins to Subway, and you're evolving and you're trying to really do
Yeah.
your thing. So I'm sorry that you didn't get a good answer you want tonight, but you have some allies.
Please.
But I
Yes.
think it would be best for the village and everybody involved to make sure that we are united in our thought process here, making sure that we understand exactly what it is we're gonna be offering, and that there aren't any question marks. So that's what we're asking for, is another opportunity. I know, so it'll be this time next month, we should have an answer for you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So do we need item C then? Were they,
So
Yeah,
it
that's
is
different.
tabled. So we,
C?
no, it's item C, let's go to item C. C is separate and
make-
See a
Okay.
separate, yeah.
I'll
So-
make a motion to approve an ordinance amending the Village of East Dundee Village Code regarding the terms of liquor licenses.
Oh, right. Second.
Okay, so discussion on this one.
Can we get some background?
Yes, so this was a suggestion that Catherine came forward with. I think it's really good. It's been difficult for people to remember that liquor licenses aren't on a calendar year and they need to renew them in, June. And so if we put them on a calendar year, that goes to what people naturally think they're on, and so it's easier for people to comply. And
Yeah.
so if we do pass this, then we'll do a prorated, you'll pay half of your fee that you normally would pay. Your license will be good through the end of the year, and then in December, we'll start selling the calendar year's worth. So, and then it'll align with the fiscal year when we eventually change that.
So we'll just have to go through the same process then that we did, probably, what was it, February, I think? Did we go through the review of all the liquor licenses that we had? No, it wasn't February, it was before that.
No, it was in
Yeah, it's in
December.
June, every
Yeah.
June,
Yeah, right. God, it was a
because
long
July
time.
1st.
Yeah, right.
So
So we'll have to
that
do
now,
it
and
again,
then we'll do it in
and it's
December, and
gonna be a
then
little
we'll do it.
painful, but it's gonna be worth it in the end, because I
Yes.
think they're gonna remember better, they,
Yeah.
Cycle.
they constantly, I have licensees in the past couple weeks actually saying,
I
when is
forgot."
renewal? I know it's coming up, something, like they don't, it's hard to remember, July 1st.
Yeah.
Plus, it's like the busier season
Right.
versus
Yeah.
non-busier December.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it's
Okay.
Yeah, great.
it's worthwhile.
Cool.
It's gonna be a little bit
It's
of
just
a,
easy.
adjustment for you between now and the end of the year, but I think ultimately it'll be worthwhile, so. Is there any other questions or discussion, or just really basically changing our scheduling on this one, so?
Makes sense.
It does for me too.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we have to amend this particular document to eliminate the item that we didn't just pass? Or will you just do that automatically? The class, lists all the class on here. Does
Oh,
it
it
list
does?
the one that
I
we
don't
did
think
not
that one's on
do?
there.
Because it's
Okay.
not,
No, it's
I
not.
didn't have the expectation.
Right.
That would be approved.
Okay.
So, Catherine, take the roll.
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Triber?
Yes.
And Trustee Sauter.
Yes.
Okay, well, that'll take us then to financial reports. Got some whopper numbers in there this month. Any questions certainly can be directed to Erica for explanation and/or Brandis. We will go to reports. I'll start out real simply. We had mention of Legacy Medical Corp. We had a ribbon cutting earlier in the week, and I attended, and bunch of really wonderful people. They actually had a location in the River Valley Shopping Center, and they just moved north to the Borello building right there on the corner of 25 and is that Deer Path that jaunts out to? I'm sorry. Park. Oh, it's Park. Okay. And so they're taking up what roughly is about half that facility. So it's really, really nicely done. They did a really, really good job on that. So we'd just like to welcome them back into the town. So that was really all I had. So we'll go around the room. Start with Sarah.
We had an events committee meeting this afternoonish evening. Got some really great, exciting things coming. The first Thirsty Thursday is coming up later this month, just before Memorial Day. So hopefully we'll see everybody out at that. A ton of stuff happening this summer, and looking forward to kind of getting some new things together as well. So
Great.
That should be fun.
Kathleen?
I just have one question about the Memorial Day parade. Is that confirmed that it's going to be over in West Dundee only? Because that's before our next meeting as well.
Yeah, so the Memorial Day Parade is not happening this year. It's been
At all.
confirmed. The organizers, we had been talking with them about potential change, and they just felt like they didn't have enough time to plan. And when we offered them alternate locations and things like that, and so they've decided this year they're just going to do their regular activities in One Park. And then we're going to continue conversations to determine what they want to do for next year.
That's all right.
Piggybacking off of that, have you guys had any discussion on the Flag Day event? I think there's what, June 13th or June?
Didn't we do that at the last meeting?
Have you talked with them about Flag Day?
Because we were
We
going
just
to
talked to Eric today, if you have something, you can get a hold of his volunteers. And we're also gonna reach out to, grab her name, Catherine, that are gonna do the Star Spangled Banner.
Kimberly
song.
Ricks.
Oh,
So
right.
if everything pans out well and Eric gets in touch with his volunteers and they're still willing to do it, there should be no problem.
Okay, well, that's coming up, so we'll have to check on that. Kathleen, do you have
That's all I
anything
have.
else? No? Scott, what you got?
No.
Rich?
No report.
All right, Trish?
No report.
And Andy?
Short report. One topic, open data. I don't know if you've heard of that, but I've been talking to Erica and a few people about presenting the village's data in an open format. It's kind of a new trend, and just there's like data.illinois.gov and other sites where it's just more transparent to the community, putting up budgets and police reports and things in a searchable, sortable format that is easier for the public to digest. So Erica is looking into that. Just wanted to bring it up in case there's other kinds of data you think would be helpful for people to, like residents, if they want to find something and it's hard to dig it out of, like embedded in a PDF numbers, it's hard to pull a chart out of it.
Oh, I
But
see. It's
kind of
searchable?
as Excel, it would be something that you could just create a chart out of this, and like the websites have visualizations built into them, so you could say, pull up the budget and show me spending by category, and it would just show a chart for you. So things that just make it easier for people to see what is happening with the, not just financials, but police reports. You could see, is there a trend of DUIs over the year that's spiking in March, or like you could actually see the data a little better. So it was something that I had heard about, and something we're exploring. So,
All right, good.
yeah, if you have ideas, send them to Erica or me.
I mean, I know from my own personal experience, you can go on the Chicago Police Department website and they update their full PDF document for crime statistics every week. They tell you trends over the last 3-4 years and all that kind of stuff every week. So I like that idea.
And then lastly, there was an email I saw that Carpentersville is doing a riverfront development near the Quiltmaster building, basically on the north edge of town. And there's I'll forward an email around. I did send it to Erica just yesterday, but they're doing a workshop where they're asking residents and people for what they want, but it sounds like they'd have like a kayak boat launch, maybe a field of hammocks and chairs, and like a canopy for events. They're kind of asking what the village or city wants, and then they're going to try to shape it based on that. But also a lot of parking across the street, it's Washington there, but Water Street, and then it would connect to their other park. But something to keep in mind as we look at our riverfront, tying into the traffic that they're getting at their spot. There's been talk about a kayak launch somewhere on our side of the river. If they have one, it might be nice to find cool docking spots at Rosie's, or ways that people can, if they're out on kayaks, kind of pull them into our town in some way. So I'll send that around just so you can see some of the ideas they're kicking around for reference.
$20 says someone wants skiing.
It's all drinking and dining in the front.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, what you got?
No report.
No? Joe?
No report.
All right, Lance?
No report.
Ah, Erica, last but not least. No report. Wow. All right, we made some good time. So, we do have an executive session tonight we're going to go into quickly, so if I could have a motion for that, we'll adjourn from that.
I will move to close to the public and media under provisions of the Illinois Open Meeting Act, 5 ILCS 120/2 for item C, 21, discussions of minutes, and C5, acquisition of property, and we will adjourn out of executive session and not return to public session.
Second.
Catherine?
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Triber?
Yes.
Trustee Sauter?
Yes.
And President Lineham.
Yes. All right, well, thank you all for coming tonight. Don't have to go home, but you can't stay
Is
here.
this quick or are we taking 5?
We'll take a quick 5, and then, yeah, how about quarter after? It's actually a quick 3, but we'll
It's a quick.
take 5.
We should take plans.